That it will, and apparently I'm wrong. SPT have only been to, by the looks of it, one BlizzCon, and that was last year.
But some of the players, I'm pretty sure, have participated under a different banner.
They definitely have. SPT has. It is an old team in the league, but it is made up of veteran players, like you say. So several have been before. But in this case, they did go to BlizzCon last year, where they placed in the 9th to 12th position. This year, though, was the first year they didn't even make it to a mid-season brawl. So SPT, having made it to both Eastern Clashes and then failing to make it to the mid-season brawl, they are here for vengeance.
They're here to redeem themselves, and what better opportunity than to basically qualify for BlizzCon right of the get-go. For now, though, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to Infernal Shrines, a battleground that we haven't actually seen at all yesterday, strangely enough. It was always, Towers of Doom we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of Volskaya Foundry yesterday and Sky Temple. But we're going back to the Infernal Shrines, and immediately, look at that first pick for SPT. Securing themselves the Alexstrasza despite Decker Kane available, despite the new Tyrande just causing and wreaking a lot of havoc yesterday. And Illidan is banned. Looks like the one in scrimmage games, in practice games, have kind of experimented again with Hugo's favorite hero.
Makes sense, as the A-team were bringing it to bear a fair amount, so it would make a lot of sense that they would try and sneak this in. Also making sense is SPT stealing away the Sergeant Hammer. It's a fantastic pick just in general, and it synergizes so well with the Deckard Cain, so being able to pick this up instead of having to force a ban onto it to prevent it comboing with the Ones team, it just makes so much more sense for them.
I'm actually really happy to see how both teams are approaching this draft, right? We see smart drafting, smart counter drafting, if you will, by SPT, as you said, stealing away the Sergeant Hammer because the synergy between Deckard and Hammer is feared for a reason. But we also see the Deckard Cain secured immediately by the One. And if you ask me, Tetcher, who the best Deckard Cain player in the league is right now, I would probably answer ZJZ, man. He has decided and won so many games all by himself with great Lornados and impeccable timing.
He's adopted it, basically, onto his side. Like you said, those Lornados have been great. A big part of the One's now infamous Eldritch Boss Pact, where they have been able to just raid so many times onto enemy bosses or being able to secure theirs at the last moment. And Lornado has had a lot to do with it, as well as some good Emerald Cube fights.
Basically, you want to try to avoid fighting on a map that has bosses in it when you're facing the One, because for some weird, miraculous reason, they always seem to win those battles in the boss pits. Now, we see a solo tank composition for SPT, only relying on the Johanna, and the only other melee that they have is Thrall. So that's interesting. Thrall is very likely going to be a soul laner then, facing off the Leoric, which is doable. Thrall has enough mobility and self-sustain to basically keep his own in lane, and if he dodges the Drain Hope, he can actually outduel and out-damage a Leoric very handsomely. Wow.
There's a Kael'thas to finish it off. More siege potential. Not going to the Nazebo is interesting here. The One, I believe they were one of the teams to experiment with it, and China has been struggling a bit with the Nazebo in general. Yeah. But taking the risk and going for the Kael'thas instead, it's sort of been bouncing up and down in priority as to whether teams are like, is he back? Is he not back? I don't know. But in this case, we will see the One bringing it out.
I think Kael'thas is also a little more tailored towards Infernal Shrines than Nazebo is, especially if you consider the objective fights, right? Nazebo, with all those skeletons around, is sometimes struggling to deliver the damage in the first place because skeletons could intercept toads, they can intercept spiders, most importantly, which can sometimes really have an effect on you. Whereas Kael'thas, he's actually going to be very happy to fight within those skeletons because they can spread bombs, they get cleared by the Flame Strike very nicely as well as a nice side effect to have. So in terms of objective fighting, I think Kael'thas is a little stronger. In terms of, dealing with Hammer in those late game situations, Nazebo still reigns supreme. So let's see whether that, that hope and trust they put into the Kael'thas will pay off or not.
We will have to see. Of course, once he hits level 20, he's going to be fine. But of course, you have to get to level 20. Flamethrower with Ignite is a fantastic anti-hammer tool. Getting there is the issue, especially against a team as proficient as a Super Perfect team. For now, though, we await to head into our first map of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, this is a best of 5 all the way through the day, except for our best of 2 show match in between this series and the final one. and this series right now is to decide who goes to BlizzCon.
Yeah, this is basically the highlight of the day. So if you've already tuned in, you're already winning at life. And if you have anyone in your friends list, anyone online you know that might be interested in this playoffs game, get them all in there, because we're in for one hell of a ride here. SPT, the reigning champions, trying to make it back to BlizzCon, trying to defend their title against TheOne. And the latter team, TheOne on the left-hand side in the blues, represented by Hugo, Keshi, Meng, ZJZ, and Huohuo.
And on the right, SPT, last phase's champions, it is Lucky, Melody C, Misaka, Soap, and ZZH.
All right, it is a race against time, as you said very fittingly, because Kel'Thas, he's only going to get stronger here. Sergeant Hammer, on the other hand, she excels in the early mid-game when she can really apply all that pressure, you know, all that sieging and zoning. The late game, she falls off a little bit, depending on which heroic ability she goes for. With the BFG, Orbital BFG, you actually have a very nice power spike. With the Napalm, not so much.
So the immediate point we have to bring up here is this is TheOne's and Meng's, for that matter, first Kael'thas.
Wow.
They have never brought it out before.
That's crazy.
At least with their current roster, and Meng has never played it in a professional game before.
I mean, Meng is not really known to be that god-tier mage player, right? In Europe, for example, or in Korea as well, we have certain assassin players that are known to be exceptionally good at mages. Mene comes to mind from Fnatic, you know. But
yeah.
Meng is usually, you know, that Genji, that Thrall who really turns things up here. But on the mages, we have already seen him on Li Ming in the past, but not really on KT, as you said. So can't wait to see what he's going to, you know, conjure up for us.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of mage play, it is pretty much limited to a single Chromie game, which he lost. And then
and
between Jaina and Li Ming, about 15 games. The Jaina, significantly more successful. Li Ming, he's on a 42% win rate over 7 games. Jaina, 87% win rate. So he does have a little mage practice. This was just a couple seasons ago.
All right, so it's very curious, isn't it, that they choose the Kael'thas in such an important game over the Jaina with, you know, with whom he has a way better win rate and more experience, obviously. So let's see what good old Kael'thas can do in this game. Looks like TheOne is just letting this go. They're kind of outpositioned and also outnumbered. They're preferring the Soak over the Mercenary Camp. And Mercenary Camps can be dealt with quite easily, especially Impalers on Infernal Shrines. It's usually not worth freaking out about them.
Exactly. They do damage if they are left unattended for a while, but in this case, you're going to be pretty safe, giving them at least a little bit of leeway. So we see He dropping a quick stun there.
Yeah. What these mercenaries camp do most of the time is basically they buy time for the team that took them, so they can rotate and get more mercenary camps, or maybe push towers elsewhere. But as you said, they're not going to be, you know, inflicting devastating damage, whereas other mercenary camps, like let's say the Gnolls, for example, on Alterac, those guys, if left unattended, can actually shred down buildings immediately thanks to their armor debuff.
That they can, which is really cool, and that will be similar, not so much in terms of mercenaries, but in terms of objectives, when we have the new Garden of Terror entering into the scene due to those multi-lane pushing, building disabling objectives.
It's curious. Pretty cool, actually, you know, potentially seeing the new Hanamura, potentially seeing Alterac and the new Garden Terror in HGC next year.
I'm certainly more excited about Hanamura, I will say, because I've made it very clear that I'm one of the very few people who actually enjoyed the old Garden Terror. I think that the whole point of having multiple maps is having variation, and now it's very much reminiscent of some other maps to me, but it's definitely going to fit in better with the current meta, the new Garden.
New Hanamura, for me, definitely a highlight as well. I've always enjoyed the visuals, you know, the game feel of Hanamura, and although the objective was wonky a little bit, the new one looks very promising. From the few games that I've played already in Quick Match, sounded or looked like a lot of fun to me. But speaking of like a lot of fun, TheOne is definitely not having a lot of fun because they're getting poked out like crazy, while Alex Raza ZZH is keeping everyone alive. Oh, look at that, 50% health. You can't even make anything happen here.
They're having to burn the Dragon Queen, though, because Hammer was taking a lot of damage, but with that, they've been able to drop TheOne down to about half health each, and with that, that will secure the first Punisher going over to Super Perfect Team.
Yeah, TheOne was fighting so hard over this. They actually managed to get a nice skeleton count for the most part, but at some point, The sheer power, the poking power of Junkrat and Sergeant Hammer was just too much for them to handle. And now they're going to have to spread out, sending maybe one person to the top lane after this one has been leashed and defended for the time being. Look at Hanzo. His PvE build here with Explosive Shot as well, if there were minions nearby, is pretty convenient, pretty good when it comes to dealing with those objectives.
Very much so. But speaking of good at dealing with things, LDC has killed off a big chunk of that front wall with that Sergeant Hammer and that extra auto-attack radius of when he is in siege mode, allowing him to hit more structures, clear minion waves a little bit quicker. Nice use of siege tactics is level 4 to escape the counter engage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what SPT can actually do with this early game momentum that they have managed to get themselves. True, they did get the first Punisher. True, they did get a little bit of damage on the structures, but TheOne have been doing a remarkable job of actually keeping the experience even, now even overtaking their opponents a little bit and taking a small lead. And this is only handy for a Kel'Thas composition. The worst thing that could happen to you is ZZH, man, rotating with that movement speed of the Exuberance and really juking that Stormbolt quite nicely. Can we say the same about Sergeant Hammer? Burns and lives.
Nice use of those boosts there, able to escape. Iron Skin for good measure as Johanna pulls out. Melody gets dropped even lower, but still survives.
Keshi almost with a sniping shot there with a nice scatter attempt, trying to really, finish the job and kill Sergeant Hammer. But look at Johanna. Misaka uses the Laws of Hope, gets anti-healed though, and is dropping dangerously low. So is Murden though, and that is first blood of the game. SPT walks away with a nice kill on the enemy's tank.
Nicely done. Quick blow up there as we see the Impalers continuing to ping damage onto that middle fort. Leoric, though, as we already mentioned, fantastic clear speed. He's got Neil Peasants too, making it even easier. Kael'thas trying to siege onto Hammer, who actually burns siege tactics quite early just to dodge the damage because there was no CC incoming. So it's a little bit vulnerable for the next couple seconds. But with the amount of pressure and the amount of protection Johanna and Alexstrasza are offering, Melody will be safe to be able to do so.
All right, TheOne is struggling a little bit. They're starting to lose more and more damage health. They also lost Huohuo now, who's going to become significantly tankier after acquiring level 10, 13, and 16, of course. But the good thing is, Kael'thas offers decent wave clear. So whenever SPT wins a team fight, whenever they get mercenaries, the combined efforts of Hanzo and Kael'thas normally take care of all those minions and mercenaries very handsomely. Keshi, by the way, dropping some great scatter shots all the time onto Melody C. But with that Life Blossom here applied by Alexstrasza, she doesn't even have to use her own health anymore to keep people alive. So all that poking will basically be counter-healed pretty handsomely. Level 10s are here for both teams.
We're seeing the Sundering BFG full burst style coming in here for SPT. Although no Falling Sword, we did see that yesterday. That was amusing, but it did not work. So we do also see the Dragon Arrow coming in. Leoric holding his finally picks up March of the Black King. There are a lot of escapes on the side of SPT. Hammer's really the only one truly vulnerable, and she has her own extra range knockback when in siege mode. So this is a fair enough choice, especially seeing as you're going to get more March value against Hammer, as she's a little bit less mobile to be able to dodge it.
Still, you have to bring up the point of asking Entomb plus Kael'thas, denying people actually to run away from the flames, to run away from the flame strikes. That could have still made some big plays happen. Look at Soap's position, by the way. Thrall about to flank someone like Keshi, someone like Meng. The squishes in the backline. That's the ones he wants to go for. The Sundering is ready, and here it comes onto Hanzo. The BFG explodes him up.
Hanzo goes down. Lord Ado trying to zone everyone else away as the Riptire gets a good triple hit, but everyone's tanking through this time for TheOne. They're still trying to fight this 27 to 25. They race forward, stunning onto Junkrat, preventing some of that PvE damage. Hugo kites back a couple of those defenders, but it is still going to be SPT with the huge AoE damage that Hammer offers, going to be taking their second Punisher.
That was an amazing flank by Soap on Thrall. We've seen similar plays yesterday from Alufal when he was on Thrall against KT, and it really seems to me like Thrall with that Sundering playstyle, with that, flanking and isolating playstyle has, stepped it up so much in China. They're finding the right target, finding Keshi on that Hanzo, and then the immediate follow-up as well with the BFG to maximize the burst damage output. Super well played by SPT, and they remain in control of this game.
With one fort already down, Fountain still up. They will have to go back for that, but they are still pushing in. That Fallen Shaman camp not going to get too much more value as it's already pretty low. But mid-fort getting absolutely wrecked here by Melody and Co. Even Johanna dropping a bit of Iron Skin value so that the minions could push in more efficiently and Hammer gets a couple more free shots.
This is basically the best case scenario for SPT right now. Not only were they able to secure every single Punisher up to this point, Tetra, right? They also maximized the pushing value, getting bottom fort, middle fort. The map is now wide open with the exception of the top lane where the only fort left for the One is standing. And the One, they're falling behind more and more. It looks like they can't really seem to catch up, you know, with all that poke. Muradin, one of the most durable and resilient warriors that we have in the game, he's struggling with all those grenades, with all the hammer shots coming in, and even when he wants to make that engage happen, there's already a concussion mine waiting. There could be a sun drink, you know, keeping him at bay. So this is an extremely hard defense for SPT to crack.
This is exactly the point of the One. SPT, they are putting on pressure and they have taken down 2 forts already, which is great news. But this isn't about a huge early game lead for the One. It's surviving long enough for Kael'thas to come online. Level 16 is when Kael'thas will truly be terrifying. Level 20 is when he becomes monstrous, where you can pick up that Ignite at 16, of course that Flamethrower later on. With the Pyromania means consistent flame strikes. You're going to be doing crazy amounts of damage, and Hammer is going to be always under threat. This is why we are now seeing Hammer taking the hypercooling engines. The reduced cooldown on the speed boost is going to make it easier for her to escape when after she's finished sieging and once they try to counter-engage.
Yeah, I think you raise a really solid point here. For the One at this point, it's all about surviving. You know, it's not about immediately dominating teamfight after teamfight. For them, it's all about getting to level 20, ideally, without losing a keep, right? Without having that additional pressure. But even if they were to lose a keep, how many times in Heroes of the Storm have we seen a team come back from this?
You know what this is? This is that one mission in Heart of the Swarm where you just have to protect the Chrysalis until Kerrigan pops out and then just wrecks face. That's exactly what they're trying to do here. They're protecting the mobile Chrysalis that is Meg so that he can come online later at level 16.
Chrysalis, new talent on the rework of Kerrigan. Speaking of which,
hold
that thought here. Kael'thas in a lot of trouble, has to use all those heals from Decker Kane, but no punishment, no turn. Up to this point, Soap rooted.
The Dragon Arrow was also missed here, but here, with a great rotation here. Keshi dropping low, but they ping off Soap. A great turnaround once again. You mentioned it before the game. That Lornado from ZJZ just popping off. They move forward. Siege Tactics dropped. Melody C having to make use of those hypercooling engines as Misaka goes down, and the One are online.
Yet again, it seems to be one of those days in which ZJZ and his Lornado make those plays happen. And it was so crucial, so important for them to finally get those kills. They close in on experience a little bit still. They probably won't change the fact that 16 will arrive for SPT quicker, but they can actually get a little bit of early momentum. And it is a purple Shrine Tetra. It is an arcane one. Look how they're grouping up those skeletons together so to get maximum value from those flame strikes.
But 16 just came online for Super Perfect Team. Johanna 6 seconds away. The One have to be quick. There's one thing that Kael'thas does really well, though, and it's clear out these shrines. Ancient Blessings even being dropped. But look at Lucky picking in so much damage here, dropping so many members of the One low. And now they move back into that defense position again, but they're 28 through
33.
with explosive arrows and flame strikes. They're working their way up, but SPT moving back around. Lornado trying to zone
35.
away while they just ping in from range. 35 to 12, 36 with Thrall wrapping around from the side, looking to try and zone away the One, but there's nothing they can do to stop the Sun King.
They need one more good flame strike. They try to fight for every minion. 38, they're so close, but they can't get it. This they did. A nice scatter shot securing that purple Punisher, and that is what the One needed to stabilize and come back.
And now they move forward with the Punisher. It is an arcane Punisher, as you said. It immediately goes over the wall. Great use of the Iron Skin, but putting on the pressure, marching forward with his Storchy Dwarf body to just tank the front line and keep SPT moving backwards. They can't cease their momentum. They have to use this to come back into this. Here is Ignite online for Kael'thas. This is where they can start to make the play. Punisher down to half health. They continue to creep forward little bits at a time, waiting for the Punisher to move forward, as now SPT have to play the floor as lava.
That they have to do. The Punisher has gone, which means the big bad Punisher that was such an important ally for the push of the One is no more. Leoric had already retreated earlier. Hugo, in his beautiful golden Leoric skin, by the way, I love that one, is taking care of the bottom before any of the towers take crucial damage here. They have the vision, though. Hugo is holding the front. can let that invade happen just like that. Are we going to see a flank attempt, or is the one going to surrender this? Keep in mind that Dragon Queen should still be up. This could always be one of those, you know, crucial abilities to really turn around a fight in their favor.
And that Dragon Queen could be, like you said, the game-changing ability as well. The ability to just tank through this, but it's a pretty big hitbox to be hit by Ignite, which is the whole point here.
True.
As Kael'thas is just going to be, assuming Kael'thas can time some of those Ignites onto the Abundance, then SPT are going to have a much harder time healing.
All right, no vision up to this point for TheOne. They don't really know what their opponents are doing. They could assume they're doing either the Fallen Shaman camp or, of course, this Mercenary camp. And now they know, now they got the notification and they can rotate accordingly. But what are they going to do? Are they going to play this all patient and wait until level 20? We talked about the Flamethrower value so many times. Or are they going to try to make an aggressive play themselves? CJZ needs to dodge that Blast Shield, can't do so. The Hanzo trying to help him actually misses on the BFG.
Potion 1, Lornado, not enough. Tried everything he
Are
could
they fighting
there.
back without support?
It looks like they may be, but Hugo now taking some damage. Hugo coming in from the side. Good Ignite from Kael'thas. Forces Melody Seed back. The Living Bomb does not spread this time, and that has to be the Wraith Walk from Hugo. He will survive, but that was a risky turnaround, like you said.
Ooh, for a moment I was like, TheOne, this is not what I would have done, to be honest. But they deal a little bit of damage. They realized, you know what? They just blew every single heroic ability into killing our support, so they don't really have a lot of hard-hitting abilities left for us to really fear. So they kept them at back, you know, dealt a little bit of damage onto them. And now with Decker Kane respawning in 8 seconds, they should be fine. Ooh, actually, round 2. Dwarf is looking for a fight.
A fight, some Stormbolt stacks, all these wonderful things, as he did go for that perfect storm at level 1. So more damage is always welcome. Meng does need to be careful where he stands now. He's not level 20 yet, but he is now massively terrifying in terms of the damage output he does, which is why TheOne are so confident moving out onto the map.
All right, this shrine, I think, could already be almost game deciding, right? Not in terms of, you know, it actually ending the game, but we know our Chinese teams. We know how much they like to brawl and how much they refuse to give up objectives. So if either of the team loses more than, let's say, 2-3 members in that team fight, the middle is wide open for TheOne and the bottom is already weakened for SPTs. So I think keeps are very much now so in falling range.
They move forward. Hugo making his way onto the point. Going to try and give his team a bit of a head start, but SPT have things they arrived earlier. 9-6, not that far ahead for SPT, and with Hugo moving so aggressively forward, you'll spot Soap hiding in that little hidden crescent area.
That was actually a really nice scout by Hugo, because they remember what Soap with an unseen flank did do to them before, right? So knowing Thrall's positioning with that Sunder engage is crucial oftentimes. Hugo going in with that Ominous Wraith, trying to reduce the damage from Sergeant Hammer.
Scroll of Stone Curse getting some good value, forcing Hammer back up once again. Master of the Black King dropping Hugo. He's able to... No, never mind. BFG from Melody C. It kept him alive for a bit, but now he can move back forward. He is Leoring. Immediately gets vision and slows onto Sergeant Hammer. Kael'thas is continuing to raid in the damage. That extra duration on the Dragon Queen is good, though. Cleansing Flame with the snipe off to the side as Soap did a fantastic wraparound once again. We see the Cleansing Flame keeping him alive for the moment. Dragon Queen comes down below, going to try and focus onto CJZ, who is once again isolated. And that's going to be a triple kill going over to SPT.
Remember what I said earlier, Tetcher? This is exactly one of those scenarios. 3 people gone now for TheOne. Mind you, Hugo will come back a little sooner, right? Level 20 with all that kill XP was achieved. Now comes the Punisher in as well. No support, no Hanzo PvE damage to keep that Punisher at bay. I'm not even sure if they can afford to pull it all the way to the middle, because even one stun might be enough for Hugo now to die if Misaka and his boys really wanted to fell him. But yeah, no pull to the middle, which means the Punisher will go straight for the core.
Arcane Shield, Arcane Barrier being popped on for Meng here as the Punisher, like you said, marches onto the core. 7 seconds until Hanzo, 16 until Deckard. Good pull this time by Hilfer into mid-keep range, buying some time as Meng is being chased down. He's made a pretty good pull here, even survives, but in the meantime, Sergeant Hammer is almost completely unattended. Hugo cannot do this alone, and with the Punisher still at half health, a beautiful Sundering zone away, that is going to be game. The Punisher will end on its own if it has to, and SPT take game number 1.
SPT.